Hi, we're Standuo and my name is Atoka.
And this is Dana, and today we will talk about conferences, events, and that we attended and networking. So the way it's gonna work, I will interview Atoka about conferences she attended, and then she will interview me about events and networking tips.
Great, let's start.
Let's start. So, what are the major conferences you attended?
So I would say the most major one I attended was One Young World, the Hague conference in 2018. It was held in The Hague, Netherlands in October last year. And One Young World is basically a conference where they call in young and aspiring leaders and professionals from all around the world. And that's where I went over pretty much before fall break.
Okay, and yeah, I heard about the One Young World. It's pretty major one. And how was your experience like, and what are the most valuable lessons you think you learned from the conference?
So I guess the most valuable lesson I learned was the fact that I actually met this woman from Kosovo, and she was just very interesting, and I guess interesting in the fact that because I've never met anyone from Kosovo, I hadn't really known so much about the country, the cultural background and the historical background, and so talking to her was a learning experience. And she actually runs an educational startup, like a coding startup, which provides educational material and teaching material for children in Kosovo. And because I'm also interested in technological education, we just really bonded well, and I think meeting her at One Young World conference was one of the best moments of this conference.
Oh wow, and I always hear you're attending all these conferences despite how busy you are. And can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So when I actually went to this One Young World conference, it was during a really busy time for me because I was it was my fall semester, senior year, and I was working on I was applying for grad schools, I was applying for full-time jobs, and so yeah, I was very busy. It was a very hectic semester, and I guess one thing, so it was very busy. And when I actually got to The Hague, I actually got a invitation to the global interview for a Schwartzman program, which I would actually elaborate on next episode. But so I got that invitation to Thailand, and so within the same week, I actually So I went to Netherlands and then went to Belgium, flew back to the UAE, and I had like a 20-hour layover, which I and I practiced my mock interview, and then I flew to Thailand for the interview. So yeah, 4 countries in 1 week is hectic.
Yeah, that's pretty intense. And what do you think motivates you to apply to those conferences?
I guess it's all about, I really love learning, and it's all about meeting new people, learning about them, learning about their experiences, backgrounds, and of course I'm very open to share my own experiences and background, but it's mostly about meeting new people, listening to these lectures, and so I guess that's something I really enjoy, and that's kind of where the passion for me to apply and go to these conferences come from.
Right, yeah. I heard you applied to Y7 in Paris, and since it's still happening next month, right? Maybe you can talk about the application process and how you got it.
So Y7 actually stands for Youth 7. So I think a lot of people know about G7 Summit and Group 7 Summit, G20 Summit, which is going to be held in Osaka, where I'm from this year. And so Y7 is the youth version of G7, and so these youth representatives from the 7 countries accumulate in Paris in June, so like next month, and we're going to be discussing global issues, and I'm in charge of technological inequality, and so that's pretty much what I'll be talking about. But that's I don't exactly know the whole entire schedule, so I can't really talk about what we're going to be doing. But in terms of the application process, I applied to the Japanese committee, and the first round was writing an essay, and then the second round was a group discussion. And because I was actually in Sydney for J-term, I did this group interview. There were four people in my group, and we did this group interview over Skype. And then my last round of interview was me. It was a panel discussion. A panel interview. And so I was there getting interviewed by, I think there were 6 or 7 people from the Japanese committee. And then I got selected as one of the 4 representatives from Japan.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Any other conferences that you applied to, like want to share to the audience?
Sure. So I applied for the Youth Global Forum, which is going to be held in Amsterdam. And so basically this conference is also accumulates youth from around the world. And this year's topic is I think it was inclusive development and 5.0 innovation. I might be a bit wrong, but I'll be representing as the I'll be there as a media representative, and so I actually wanted to share this information with all of you because the application is still open, and it would be amazing. It's open for youth between 20 to 35 years old. It'll be held from December 2nd to the 6th in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And so if you're interested, we'll post a link below, and so please apply.
Apply, yeah. That's an amazing opportunity, and yeah, and we also will. I will post a link below about the different like conferences that you can attend. That is not only
Yeah,
the
exactly.
one you attend.
Yeah.
You're attending, yeah.
So we'll do that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Donna, and do you want to talk about the events that you attended?
Yeah, so during my study experiences in New York and London, I attended different events and conferences. And for example, I remember I was interested in blockchain in London, and I just wanted to find out more. So when you do a simple Google search, if you're in London, for example, dozens of events will pop out. So I remember also attending talks with different professors on global economic affairs, and then information sessions hosted by different companies, and also women's leadership conferences in London. So
Do you want to talk about one memorable event that you attended?
So I attended this conference dedicated to a successful woman called, I think it was called something like London Leadership Conference, London Women's Leadership Conference. And there were many influential women from different companies like Amazon, JP Morgan, Unilever. And I remember a financial director from Amazon, she was giving a speech on having it all and also owning it. So that was very, I think, impactful for me personally.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of conferences around the world. So if you're interested, we'll definitely update you.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about like your networking skills?
So I would say that I learned a lot from mistakes, and when I was in New York, I remember I remember I would apply to different conferences, and whenever I would be selected, I would go. For example, I remember there was this conference from Goldman Sachs, and I generally didn't know much about the company. So I knew that it's an investment bank and they are moving to technology, but I was actually generally interested to talk to the professionals and find out more. But apparently, networking strategy is very different for people, let's say like in New York, for example. A lot of the people who came to the conference actually came with the mindset that they want a point of reference, and their networking approach differed a lot from mine, for example. And the main reason, like a lot of, especially a lot of graduates do, they go to these info sessions, and it helps them in the interview process, because they can say that, oh, I talked to this professional who recommended me to you, and I think that's also great. But it's very important to know what is your main purpose and what do you want to get from that conference. Yeah.
Do you have any tips about networking?
So the tips that I just mentioned, which is like knowing your purpose, and I guess it's also very important to do your research beforehand, to know to research more about the company or about the person who is giving a speech, and also if you have I don't know, specific questions and you're curious about, just make sure that you will ask them, and maybe also try to talk to as many people as possible, and the one thing I learned is that it's very hard for a person to remember you from just one interactions, and there are probably gonna be dozens of people like you. So it's always good to follow up, and hopefully you can find a mutual connections with the person you're networking with.
Great, that sounds amazing. And I feel like you're very passionate about networking. So then where does that passion come from?
I guess I'm not only networking. I think I'm just passionate about attending different conferences and events. And it's not always like I network. Sometimes I just go and listen and I leave. There are also when I go to different professors talk. So I guess even though I'm not 100% sure what I want to do in life, the one thing I know is that I really, really enjoy learning and just listening to people, to knowledgeable people from different walks of life, and I think it just gives me a very fresh perspective on my personal life. Yeah.
Great. Anything you want to add?
I think, just whenever you attend those conferences and events, just make sure that you're genuine and stay cool. Yeah. And hopefully what Itoka and I just shared will help you in your application process and in your networking game.
Great.
So
that's it for today's episode of Standuo. Please leave a comment
below,
like, and subscribe.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.